I want to start by thanking McElroy for this opportunity to present to you all today. I'm David Fink, president of the Plastics Pipe Institute, better known as PPI. So I'll be talking today a little bit on some of our activities, but I was asked to focus a little bit into the conduit market. It has quickly become the single largest polyethylene piping segment, and it has grown at almost double digits now for the last decade. So it's cooled off a little bit this year, but is one with a very bright future as well. So just a little bit on who PPI is. We're the largest North American plastic piping association. Ironically, there are 4 plastic piping associations in North America. We're one of the 4. The other ones being the Plastic Pipe and Fitting Association, which focuses more on code work. Unibel PVC Piping Association, which his main focus is PVC for water and wastewater. And Danny Landy's here, and I saw Peter Dyke just walk by. The PE Alliance, which is focused on polyethylene in water and sewer. So we are dedicated to promoting plastics. We really provide a forum for industry to collaborate on everything from standards to research, with the goal of being to be the voice of the industry at the end of the day. So for more information, I highly suggest you check out our website. That's where all our technical documents and everything are located. Our membership continues to grow. We are pretty much the full value chain. So we start on the back end with the resin supply, color concentrates, equipment manufacturers, your pipe and conduit and fittings manufacturing, and distribution. So I know there's some distributor companies here. If you're interested in learning more about membership within PPI, distributor membership today is in our municipal and industrial division and also in our energy piping systems division. So if you have interest there, please seek me out later. So a little bit of the agenda today. I'm quickly going to go through our 5 divisions, and I will end with conduit so we can spend a little bit more time on it, and then I want to wrap up with a little bit of some committee updates which you might find of interest. Sustainability, recycling, these are buzzwords that are in the industry almost every day and are something that we've started focusing on more heavily within our industry. So our 5 market divisions that I'll cover today, we go through everything from building and construction. So really think about hot and cold water plumbing, geothermal, our drainage or corrugated piping division, so roadway, energy piping systems, municipal and industrial, and power and communication or conduit. So just quickly going through some of these segments, building and construction is by far our most diverse segment whenever it comes to different materials that are engaged. Everything from CPVC to a number of different polyethylene equivalents and polypropylene. A number of different applications and growing. And these are certain items that with the green movement, if I can call it that, are becoming more popular. So geothermal systems, for example, there's a large number of campuses that are starting to look at that for their systems. District energy is another big growing segment in addition to just snowmelt systems. You can't afford people slipping and falling on your northern campuses, so there's campuses investing in just simple things like snowmelt systems. So some of the recent technical developments, and again, the website here is at the bottom if you want to check out more information, but a lot of the focus here over the last couple of years has been on design. So you can see here there's a new design calculator that's been updated. There is a model spec now for polypropylene pressure pipe and plumbing, and actually are looking at a polypropylene fusion standard. So with the growth in polypropylene in particular over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of focus put into that effort. And then there's also been a new publication on chlorine dioxide. So if you've got questions on chlorine dioxide, please seek me out. It doesn't play nice with any piping system at the end of the day. It's typically used as a primary disinfectant, so it doesn't make its way into the distribution systems. But if you're doing a job in a hospital, for example, it may be something they're using to douse their water system with to clean it. So we've got concerns with chlorine dioxide because it's a very aggressive material whenever it comes to a disinfectant. So if you do have questions, please seek us out. Ground source growth, again, is really the area that has been probably the fastest segment within this area. There is a new Model 7 spec for geothermal systems. Here again, just looking to standardize this industry. It's been a one where there's a lot of turnkey solutions out there, people that do everything from the pipe to the U-bends to the drilling to the installations, and it needed some specifications brought forward. PPI is also working closely with IGSHPA. We are the acronym university some days, but IGSHPA is Ground Source Heat Pump Systems. Thank you. Yeah, there's too many for me to keep them all straight. Yeah, so they are a subset, if you will, that we work with within this segment. Again, we focus more on the standards areas. They're focused more on the training of those contractors. Drainage division or corrugated, you're going to see mostly polyethylene, but polypropylene has really found a home here in the last couple of years as well. Most of this is going to be stormwater management, huge growth in agriculture and turf to get more productive in the fields, to get that water off, get that right soil, water mixture. Culverts and highway, with all the highway and road construction that's going on, another great area where they're fighting concrete, and then storm sewers and some municipal uses. So technical developments, they came out with their first handbook beginning last year. They've started doing some webinars that are on our YouTube site that you can check out. The initial ones have really focused more on installation and design. We're working also to get those chapters translated into Spanish and French. Anybody want to guess where the French one is needed? Where are my Canadians? So, no, in Canada, yeah. But we are looking to translate some of our documents in general, just to reach broader markets, because we are a North American Trade Association. So a lot of this also was working at the possibility of harmonizing some AASHTO and ASTM standards. A lot of different standards actually reference ASTM, and that's the way our industry probably works most efficiently, is you update ASTM, it's referenced in a standard, then that standard gets updated at the same time. And then there is some work on ASTM E60 regarding resiliency. And I just want to spend a quick minute on this because sustainability and resiliency are not the same thing, but there are some opportunities here for plastic piping materials to stand out, but we need to be present. The Concrete Piping Association basically tried to write legislation, standards that would eliminate plastic piping materials because we float away during hurricanes and floods. So we need to stay on top of things in the standards arena at the end of the day is all I'm trying to mention, so that we don't have competing materials trying to write language that could limit our opportunities. And ASTM E60 is one to where I encourage your companies to at least keep an eye on it. PPI is engaged and involved there. Corrugated is probably one of our best, actually it is our best story whenever it comes to post-consumer resin. So think Clorox bottle, Tide detergent, anything with the chasing arrows with the number 2 on it on the bottom of the jug. This industry last year consumed over 600 million pounds of those materials. So as you're hearing about the need for more recycling, this is a wonderful application to be able to utilize recycled post-consumer. So you're taking a single-use item and turning it into something that's going to last for generations, 100 plus years. We're also, as a side note, exploring the use of PCR in Conduit because we believe there's another opportunity there. There is a wonderful video that I'm not going to play because I tried it earlier and it's not connected, but encourage you to check this out. It's a little 90-second video on how we're using that PCR to really make a safer environment for all of us when we're out on the road driving, because you got to get that water off that highway. Energy market, pretty self-explanatory. This is everything from the upstream oil and gas gathering to the gas distribution side. Here again, your materials vary a little bit, primarily polyethylene, but we do see some nylons or polyamides working their way in. They're a great opportunity to replace where polyethylenes don't compete when you get into higher pressures, higher temperatures, and it is a fusible system that can be installed. And then we have our composites, which really can compete against any of the steel materials that are out there in the industry. A little bit of the technical developments here going on. There is a new test pressure calculator that has been recently put out. So if you have engineers that are looking at designing systems and they need some support, come to the site. It's a free calculator that you can download. There are 2 new e-learn courses. So we're realizing that my generation and probably older, and I'm going to stereotype here for a second, likes textbooks. We like to pull the book off the shelf. We like to be able to open it up. Maybe we have our notes there. The younger generation coming in, they want to watch videos. They're the YouTube generation. So we have created online training that someone can do at their leisure, 24/7, 365. They don't have to show up at a lunch and learn. And I don't want to take away from the need for lunch and learns, but this is an opportunity to get educational content online. And at the end of each one of these modules, there's a quick quiz, and we're looking at the opportunity to start with personal development hours and continuing education credits for this as well. So this is something that is starting to evolve within PPI whenever it comes to our technical literature and training. Not to highlight all these, but there's a new model spec as well for nylon 12 or PA 12 for piping systems. Again, it's a great alternative for some of your higher pressure applications where polyethylene isn't capable today. Potable water and wastewater, this continues to be the holy grail for this industry. It's one that we are growing in market share, but I don't think as fast as any of us would like. But your main materials here really that we represent are going to be polyethylene and then some PEX and some polyethylene and aluminum when you're looking at your service laterals. There's a big movement in funding right now through the government for your lead line service replacements. $15 billion being put forward for lead line service replacements. Anybody have an idea how much more copper costs per foot than polyethylene? You're talking 3 to 5 times as much. Where are most of the lead lines? Impoverished communities. We can do more with polyethylene and PEX on those service laterals. We can install faster, we can install easier, and we can get this solution fixed faster. But the copper industry is out there negatively selling against us. So here again, we just need to continue to promote the positive benefits of our piping materials. So a little bit about what's been going on. In addition to McElroy's great efforts, the Municipal Advisory Board, which are municipalities throughout the United States, we've started bringing some of those folks to a training facility in Green Bay. It's a technical school, and they go up there for a full week and get to do on-hands training in both butt fusion and electrofusion. They do pass tests at the end of the courses and do not receive their certification unless they get 100%. So we've had 4 of these. One is actually going on this week. It's limited to about 12 students so that everybody can get time on the machine. But these are individuals, whether it be Detroit or Miami-Dade or Austin, Texas, that are part of the municipal advisory group that when they go back, it's the whole train the trainer. Always looking at AWWA and ASTM standards that need to be revised and updated. I don't see any major revisions coming. The last major revision was the move from 3408, 3608 to 4710 and the chlorine classifications. But these are standards that need to be revised every 5 years. 5 years sounds like a long time until you spend 2 years revising it, sleep for a night, and then boom, it's back again. So some of the trenchless standards are also in need of revision as we're getting better and more knowledgeable about how we install during trenchless. And we've recently updated MAB 1 and 2 and then created MAB 9. So MAB 9 gives you an opportunity now to talk about seismic resistance or earthquakes. So this is a great technical document to go up against bell and spicketed type materials that are not self-restrained. So highly encourage you to go onto the website and download MAB 9 and put that into your portfolio. As we've talked this week on how do we go about selling restrained plastic piping systems, and I'll just talk about polyethylene, the fact that we don't need to worry about seismic like some of these other materials do, that we're self-restrained, that we can eliminate anchor blocks and reduce cost of installation are huge wins. Yes, Jim?
How much do those standards cost on the PPI website?
They're very expensive. They're free. Yep, they are all free. So here again, they're quick downloads. There's the link. Anybody that would like a copy of the presentation, just reach out to me and you can get those downloaded. Yes?
I was going to mention, and maybe you're going to touch it somewhere else, but on the anchor blocks, didn't we just come out with one showing that they could be reduced by like 75% of what
Yeah, they're like 25 to 30% of what they used to be. So you look at the significant reduction in cost, not only in time, but in material that brings to a job installation site. And in a lot of cases, they're not even needed.
Yeah, and that's
so
coming
it's
in the
more
last year. That's
correct.
Updated, just so everybody is aware of that.
Yep. We've spent a fair amount of time, if you will, in the ditch over the last 3 to 4 years in this segment. A lot of the entry of polyethylene into the municipal market has been through trenchless. we're now fighting for that open ditch space. And for that open ditch space, these are some of the things that we knew we had to correct in the engineering design of this material. So again, highly encourage you to check out some of these standards that we have out there on the webpage for you, publications. So one of the things that Camille, who is our Director of Engineering, asked me to put in is what he's hearing from the Municipal Advisory Board. Again, this is a group of end users, municipalities are out there, and two things really jump off the page. And Pete and Danny, I'd like to hear from you guys too on what you're hearing, because you're out there on the road all the time in front of these guys. One is we need more inventory of dips on fittings and pipe, and the other one is to help sell more products, case studies are critical. People want to know if somebody next door has installed this material in their backyard. Not to put you guys on the spot, but would you argue with those requests?
No, I mean, the whole dips thing, I mean, everybody understands that. You know, we're in Canada right now, and it's all IPS.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where you are in the United States or Canada on what's required. And your distributors are only going to stock what they're selling. They're not going to stop dips just to be nice.
Yeah, and it's a great point. Know your backyard, know what your opportunities are within your geographical area, because it does vary from state to state, province to province. We do have our PPI list.
So just complete
Yep.
the question. So the issue on case studies is we're up over 400 case studies now on our website. Some we steal from you,
Yep.
some from McElroy. People in here help us. And we have one intern who's doing case studies. If you don't have anybody to write your case studies, but you have images and you can fill out 10 lines on a 20-line form, we'll write it for you. All you have to do is email me or Dan Landy, and that's how we've gotten to 400, and that's how we'll get to 800. So please use us as a resource.
Thank you, Pete. Our PPI distributor list is here. So if somebody inquires about, you know, I need help with this, I need this amount of pipe, I need a fusion machine, I need fittings, this is who we send out. So again, if you're interested in becoming a PPI distributor, seek me out later, because that's our group that we currently recommend when people come to us. Amazing how many people think PPI actually makes pipe. If I could just shut off the number of people that call me wanting to handle my logistics services, it would be amazing reduction in my inbox and my phone calls. So, market outlook obviously is very good. This is another area that is federally being funded from some of the infrastructure bills that have been out there through the government funding. I think more and more people are waking up to trenchless. They think it's a new technology. It's been around for decades. It's a proven technology. It's a huge cost saver. It's a time saver. And again, demand going forward, I think, is going to be exceptional. So conduit, and this is where I want to spend a little bit more time. So the materials the PPI focuses on here is solely polyethylene. Yes, there is PVC conduit, but our focus here, just like on the municipal side of things, is exclusive to polyethylene. And you have different products from conduit to microduct. And microduct is probably one of the faster growing technologies in this industry. Reason being is sometimes when you open a ditch, every single conduit that you lay in there has to have its own right of way. But now you can put in 5, 7, 9, I don't know how high they've gotten anymore on microducts, and have that a more efficient cable that you can put in the ground. So with that, some of the technical developments. Nothing against this industry, but probably 20 years ago, you want to talk about the wild, wild west of people doing just about anything and everything to make conduit. This was a dumping ground for post-consumer resin and off-grade materials and everything else. So the bar has been greatly raised in the standards arena for this technology, for this application. Main reason being is that conduit is just that. It's a sheath to protect whatever you're putting inside it, whether it's a fiber optic cable or a power cable. The money is being spent on that material going into the conduit. The conduit was always the least expensive, but if it fractures, if it breaks, and your system goes down, you're not taking care of the least costly component by just trying to be cheap. So the bar has been raised. There is a new TN drafted now on conduit fusion. When this industry first came out, it was really all small diameter. They'd pull it up into a box, they'd splice their fiber and continue on with another long run. We're starting to see larger and larger diameter in conduit. So we're seeing conduit in conduit. I'm aware of conduit as large as 30 inches that would be drilled, and then they'll pull in a host of smaller diameter pipes. And I'll get into some of those applications and what's been going on and everything from data centers to even smart communities that's driving that. There is a mini HDD conduit design calculator that's out there now. So this is going to be helpful for guys like Ditch Witch and others that are actually going out there with their machines. Product selection guides, installation guides, and standards developments. Again, this wasn't a highly regulated area. So PPI and the industry has spent time on ASTM, UL, NEMA, and other standards. We've also eliminated heavy metal pigments. This is an environmental positive for us. We don't want lead and other materials out there that's in the ground. And investigation, as I mentioned earlier, is continuing on the use or potential use of post-consumer. So some of the factors here really that's driving this growth, renewables, right? We're in a green generational era, whether we like it or not. There's going to be more solar, there's going to be more wind. So as anybody that sat in on Mark Bridger's conversation yesterday knows, there aren't a whole lot of people where the sun shines and where the wind blows. And when we start to move that power, it degrades. But that said, we need to move that power. You have to protect that power cable. You're protecting that with conduit. And some of this conduit is starting to get into your larger diameters. So you're starting to see conduit 4 through 12 inch being pretty common on windmill farms and other areas, and thus the need for fusion. You're not coiling 12-inch conduit. Did I back up? Apologize. Power infrastructure. Here again, like any infrastructure throughout North America, whether it's roads or bridges, our power infrastructure is degrading. It needs a massive rehabilitation. And here's a wonderful opportunity for polyethylene conduit for growth. And let's not mention, none of us had enough broadband width during COVID, right? Kids were home, wife was on the internet, I'm trying to do a Teams meeting, trying to get my kids to shut off their 3 devices that are all pulling on Wi-Fi and broadband. But the government has also decided we need to fund some underprivileged rural communities, et cetera, that just don't have access. It's just too important to our society today, especially for children growing up and trying to get their education, that they have access to broadband. So there is a lot of money being spent in this area through government funding. Undergrounding of utilities continues. It's not pretty when you got to put a telephone pole out in your front yard. So we're seeing more and more undergrounding of utilities. It's also a great way to not lose power or internet whenever you have storms, ice storms, hurricanes. So this is becoming almost, the preferred solution, I guess, is what I'll say in new developments. And again, larger diameter that I mentioned, because you can bundle a bunch in. Rusty?
Fires too.
Yeah.
Those fires out west, they're being forced to do a lot of that. So
Yeah, because your telephone poles are going to burn up just like the trees and everything else above ground. So this is a little bit of the growth over the last couple of years. So you could see internet and video, your web and email is the one that's really continuing to grow as well. File sharing and then online gaming. I don't get it, but both my boys do. So and I know there's adults, I guess my boys are both adults now, but there's people out of college that are gaming. So that's becoming a bigger factor. And now with the legalization of gambling online, I can only imagine where this may be in another 5 years. So renewables. Here again, you can see some projections when you look at where is our electricity going to be generated from. That's some incredible growth in wind and solar that you're looking at here over the next 20 plus years. All of that is going to need conduit for those power cables. So different sources here on energy outlook. Harvey.
I see on the blue, in the first chart on the blue, it talks about natural gas with a slight reduction. Could you comment on if that happens and we lose a little bit of gas pipe market share, how this is going to pick up? It's a net zero sum game.
It really is a net zero sum game. Again, mentioning Mark Bridger's conversation the other day, there is not an opportunity for renewables to completely replace the electricity needed in the world. So natural gas will not go away completely. You may see some hydrogen being blended into that natural gas, which is great for plastic piping materials, polyethylene. But to your point, Harvey, yes, even as this may have a little bit of a decline, as some communities decide they want to move away from it and have electrical sources from wind and solar, and let's see what happens on a stale, cloudy day. But the renewables are picking up some of that pace, and it's all the same size range. These are small diameter machines that are making those products. Just a quick comment, how many people are seeing more and more solar on the side of the highway when they're driving, right? There are solar farms everywhere. So it's a good sales opportunity to figure out where that power is going and what their plans are for the future. So that might be a future sales opportunity.
Could you go back, why is the hydro going down?
It's basically, from my understanding, I mean, that may change. Dusty's presentation this morning said there's more dams going in. I would assume with those dams, not only for water collection, that's a great opportunity for electrical generation. But I just don't think there's been the investment over the years, and whoever did the study probably just said that's going to be flat.
I think some of it too is the age of some of those. They've got some that are becoming obsolete or have to be redone, and then of course you've
Could
got
be.
people fighting to undam the rivers, but you can't make everybody happy. I mean, it's gonna be a.
Yeah. I know most of the investment from governmental financing and subsidy has been into the wind and solar areas. So this is a huge opportunity, and this is one that, depending on where you live, I've got data centers around my house. Lance McNevin, he lives in a little community just outside of DC where you go down the street and on both sides, these massive buildings are just data centers. So whether it's Facebook or Twitter or your online shopping, I mean, there's just not enough out there for everything that is being utilized. And as we continue to grow the internet, we continue to grow broadband, the use of these data centers is going to continue to grow. Because you no longer have to go through your box of pictures, all your pictures are uploaded, right? All your videos are being uploaded. So to fulfill that use for data, these centers are going in. Our project winner was WL Plastics last year. For this, you can see how many conduits are just laid there out in the ground. These are massive jobs, massive opportunities for these data centers, and there is a good growth story here to be had. So it's just another target, I would say, that you ought to put into the market if you're in the data center world.
And that project, if I remember, David, that's also, all those were actually horizontally, directionally drilled in
One time, yeah.
So,
I mean, talk about an impressive drill and pull, but also talk about how impressive our product is that we can do that. So these are cost-effective installations, less disruptive ways of doing installations.
David, quick question. Market size in relation to what? I mean, what are the?
Market growth, so this is the CAGR that they have going up through 2030 on the growth of just data centers.
Got it.
Market size,
Right there, the 22 to 30. What is that?
I will need to dig into that and follow up.
I got you.
Yep. North American held largest market share. Let me dig in. I'm not gonna lie to you, I leverage some of my colleagues' slides on some of these things, and so I'm not always the subject matter expert, so I will follow up with you. This is one of the best free market research companies I've found online, just as an FYI, FMI. And they've got great information out there, and this is some of the information I pulled. When you look at electrical distribution, this is where they're saying the growth is over the next couple of years. This is everything from population migration, right? People can work anywhere now, so they're moving out into the rural areas. They don't want to be in congested cities. Underground utilities that we've mentioned before are really driving this, as well as retrofits. So good growth story here for the next 5 years. When you look at telecommunications, a little bit less growth at 4.4 on the CAGR, but here again, rural broadband, again, people moving out or already living out that don't have internet to where this is going to go, and fiber optics. So more and more people want to be able to watch any movie at any time, anywhere, and at their house. So these are things that just in demand or just in time internet and video downloads, streaming services are going towards. How many people own more than one streaming service? More than 2? More than 3? All right, you see where this is going, right? Drives me nuts when I pay my bills, but somehow I can't eliminate any of them. So the government funding, just to touch on some specifics here, there is $2.7 billion in the Digital Equity Act. This is really getting internet to underprivileged communities that just don't have it today. And then there is the BEAD program, which is Broadband Equity Access and Development. That's another $42.5 billion. These are not small numbers. It's not all going to be spent tomorrow. This is a next decade type of development. So these programs are budgeted. They will be spent. There is a very bright future for Conduit moving forward. Any questions on Conduit before I move on to some of our committee updates?
Is it true that when you've got a 1,000-foot spool of conduit, that they're using mechanical connections to fuse the two reels of pipe together? They're not using fusion typically?
They are using a lot of mechanicals out in the field today, that is correct, especially in the smaller diameters. But as they're getting into the larger diameters where you don't have that 1,000 feet and you're starting to look at 50-foot sticks, and that breaking point is probably over 4-inch once you go to 6.
2 inch is real common for mechanical. Above 2 inch becomes more difficult, but they're very inexpensive. Like a lot of times they'll use what's called a reverse thread coupler. So it's just a very rough coupler thread. So it has reverse threads. So you put the conduit in both ends at the same time, rotate it, and it screws in both at the same time.
Got a left hand, right hand.
Yeah, just hold it together. Yeah.
Wouldn't the ID an issue too on some of that?
Yeah, I think for blowing fiber, if you're going to blow fiber in,
But typically on the reverse threads, the left hand, right hand thread, it has full bore, you can just kind of wiggle it in. And then as you turn it and rotate and it self screws on, it expands the polyethylene because it's ductile and leaves a full ID.
Yeah, you
PVC
need that.
couplings can be used as well, the two-part epoxy, it's pretty popular in Canada actually,
Does the epoxy really work?
as far as I know, so far.
I've had a lot of people show it to me, and I've never got one to actually work. It works with you until you bang it. So they had.
that's why you bury it really fast.
Yeah, they had a piece coupled together, and you try to pull it apart, you can't. You tap it on the ground a couple times, comes right out. Nothing sticks to polyethylene. They have gotten better at it, though, you know.
Well, again, if you've got questions, I'm not going to pretend I can answer them all, but I will find you somebody that can on the growth in Conduit and some of the opportunities here. Just let me know. So a little bit on our committee updates. Education, what I want to point out here, and I mentioned this already, our PPI eLearn. If you want to check that out, that is where you go to, is just Google PPI eLearn. It'll take you out to some of the modules we have. We have 8 now that are out there and looking to try to add 1 per division per year moving forward. We do have a community platform for our members. So we're trying to not fill your inbox on a regular basis. We created a community platform where you can get a daily or weekly digest, and then you can read our information at your leisure instead of us clogging up your inbox for our members. And then for everyone, we're trying to, again, reach this generation or post-COVID for all of us. It seems like everybody's a little less patient after COVID, and creating training shorts. So these are meant to be 30-second to 5-minute max little videos for introductory topics. And our drainage division has a few out there, and our other divisions are going to start leveraging that template. So they're great little videos on specific topics. Technical committee, pretty self-explanatory. I do want to point out that this has now been completed. We have a position paper now on wildfires. Dr. Welton runs around the country saying that some of the benzene contamination is coming from the burning of the plastic pipe. It's not the 1 million pounds of debris and other things that were burned on the top of the surface that were sucked into it. So this gets into proper rehabilitation of a water line, flushing it, if it's been melted or damaged, replacing it, backflow preventers, everything that you need to be doing when it comes to wildfires. So currently it's position paper. We've balloted it through our technical committee so that we can actually make a statement. We've recently just sent out, within the last 2 weeks, one on PFAS and one on microplastics, because these are growing areas of concern that anti-plastics personnel are pushing forward to try to sell more copper or concrete or ductile iron or what have you. So I encourage you to go out to our technical website and familiarize yourself with those documents. Some of the other ones that are just recent developments, chemical resistance, aging of HDPE conduit, which was just recently done. Sustainability, this is probably the most attended committee meeting we've had for the last 2 years. Everybody wants to understand recycling and life cycle cost analysis and environmental product declarations and all these confusing terms that are being pushed at us. To date, most plastics coming under attack have been single use, right? We've got everything from elimination of certain materials in Canada to restrictions or minimum recycled content in some of the single-use products. Think straws, your clamshells for your fast food, etc. But we have created a brand new website, just recently launched it. It goes through everything from infrastructure. We have a climate change statement. We're starting to develop really what is our carbon footprint. I really believe in the next 3 to 5 years when you go to sell product, it is going to be on the list, what is your carbon footprint for your product versus your competing materials? We don't have a great answer today, but we're going to work towards it. Life cycle assessment, resiliency, fairly new word for most of you. Resiliency is how do I recover, how can I withstand not only extreme events, fires, floods, earthquakes, but just ground movement, stressors that occur throughout the year, freeze-thaw cycles. And then Ocean Clean Sweep, or excuse me, Operation Clean Sweep. We've now promoted this on our website, and we're asking more and more of our members to sign up for this. This is basically a commitment, and I believe before long will be an audit to where no pellet, no shaving goes unaccounted for. So as distributors are out there shaving pipe in the field before you're fusing it, we need to make sure we're collecting all that material and it's not blowing away into the wind and getting into the creeks that ends up into the river and into the ocean, right? So this is a big push just to have zero waste job sites, make sure we're not negatively impacting the environment.
Hey, David, I'm on the sustainability committee. I always thought this group might be interested in that. You know, we just published that recycling list, or we're very close to it. That
Yep.
would be something I would mention, you might mention.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Rusty. So our meeting kicks off Sunday, and one of the things that we will be releasing is a list of recyclers. So let's say you do have job site scrap, and we really want to promote a zero waste job site. Whether it's a new housing development, whether it's West Texas oil field, you're going to have shavings, you're going to have some shorts. We don't want those going into a landfill. So we've created a list of companies that you can contact that will pick that up, recycle it for you. They cover a lot of different materials, a lot of different applications, but it is a resource because we don't want that going into the trash bin. And again, we don't want it going into recycling. Some of this is actually valuable material. You may find they'd even pay for it to be picked up.
I would even suggest you got customers out there. I mean, I'm a distributor. You guys are all distributors. The mines, the phosphate
Yep.
mines, the gold, copper mines. They've got boneyards that are a mountain, and maybe you're doing a favor to them by contacting them and letting them know where this stuff could go, because there's different ones, correct, that are
Yeah.
physical and chemical recyclers.
Yeah, so the list is mechanical recycling or physical recycling that we've developed, and there are companies that will come out on site and do some of that grinding and recycling for you. Pete?
So last year, Steve Breedemeyer and I tried to work with ADS in Columbus. So ADS is the biggest recycler of
Yes.
polyethylene in the United States. And how many bags of,
4 stuffed bags of shavings. They don't really like it because it gums up there.
so we tried this, we tried to get them to take it, but all these ribbons from the job site, they don't want. So,
But every recycler is going to be a little bit different. ADS is trying to put it right back into corrugated, where you're going to find others that may want it for carpet or whatever the case may be.
Shavings is tough,
Yeah, shavings are tough. Fines, those types of things.
But there are recyclers who deal with film, and if they can deal with film, they can deal with the shavings.
Right.
It's just different handling equipment for them.
Yeah. So the goal here is, out of the 100 I think that are on the list, I mean, it's a long list. You should be able to find somebody in your backyard that can help you. It may take you a little bit of homework, but you should be able to find somebody. I'm not touching anything, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
Did that to me yesterday.
That's, yeah. So governmental affairs, what I'll state here is we're seeing more and more activity at the state and federal level on everything from recycling rates to proposed legislation that's coming down on end of life. We tend to put it in the ground, say it's going to be there for 100 years, but we're going to have to start coming up with what is our end of life solution. And I'm not sure if there's a port here I need to wiggle or anything else, but I'm almost done, so maybe if I don't move. Extended producer responsibility, again, is becoming a bigger area. So this committee really just kicked off last January, so we're a little bit over a year and a half old. This is probably the second most attended committee within PPI because people want to understand, hey, what's going on in some of this legislation? How concerned do I need to be about it? And this is a great opportunity not only to feed in inputs to this committee, but for us to push out things you may need to be concerned with. This is also an opportunity for the trade association and our members. Whenever there is a campaign that we need to let our Congress know about, whether it's an infrastructure bill that we want to support or maybe a labor bill that we don't want to support for some reason, we will push out information if you so to elect to where you can sign up on those letters and push that information forward.
I think it's like
So-
flashing the light at you, Dave.
Yeah, so, you know, there we go. Again, I'm going to try not to move. So the last one is safety. We've had a safety committee now for about 3.5 years. It didn't take off as well as we thought, but we're up to 12 member companies that report in. We look at their recordables. It's all done anonymously. Distributors can participate in this, as can pipe manufacturers. We look through that information and we try to come up with best practice solutions. So I will state, out of those 12 companies, we've had 3 amputations this year. So pay attention to what you're doing. Make sure you're your brother's keeper. Don't feel afraid to stop somebody from doing something stupid. You know, we want this to be a safe, attractive industry to work in. So if you've got questions, if you want to participate, please reach out to us, reach out to myself. But we produce bulletins, we've done safety seminars for our members. Those videos have been recorded and they're available. And it's everything from lockout, tagout to better leadership and how that develops a better safety program. That is my last slide, which I'm glad. So the last question is, how was this session? So I think there are surveys to fill out in the app, but I think I'm on time. I've got a few minutes if there's any questions.
What was that check-in code again?
Meeting 2C.
All lowercase.
Lowercase.
So what's happening with the people that are getting amputations? They're having?
2 main contributing factors come about: not following proper procedure and rushing. People are trying to speed things up and getting their digits where they don't belong.
So it's just fingers?
So far, just fingers. A lot of moving parts down in the packaging area, and that's the main area where it comes. Hand injuries alone are 2x the next injury as far as body part, and it predominantly is in that packaging and yard area where either you're using metal banding, you're around saws, pinch points as they roll off of tables. It's where you have some of your timber that you're putting in, so it's a lot of the pinch points. Ironically, it's not all the coiling and reeling that I speculated that it was going to be, because that is a sophisticated dance. If you've ever watched a coil being tied off on the layers, it tends to be more just that packaging area.
And not loading or unloading. I thought that's where it'd be.
The yard follows. Things in the yard though tend to be random. Bee stings, leg cuts. Just not paying attention to where you're at. I'll go Doug and then Steve.
Good.
Or Steve and then Doug. I pointed and said the wrong name. Steve and then Doug.
Real quick, you didn't mention on the regulatory stuff, is there anything going on, or people seeing anything with lead-free requirements now or certifications on your products? Because I get questions on that from time to time, and I know there's lots of confusion within NSF on what's lead-free and what's not, and how you need to market or not market. So if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, because there is some work out there. It's NSF 372 is the standard for lead-free, and what's not clear is that if you have NSF 14 or NSF 61 on your product, that automatically gets tested for lead, and if you're certified to that, you are considered lead-free, but NSF doesn't say that, so you kind of have to dig into it sometimes. And I know that every now and then we've been getting requests or requirements to write other certifications on our pipe, that it is, quote, lead-free, and they don't understand that link, and it's not real clear in the NSF literature, so I just wonder if people see that, be aware of it, because we see it more and more.
I would, just in talking about hand injuries, in general, in industry, hand injuries are the most common reported to OSHA. So I don't think necessarily, where I think the piping industry probably has a higher incident rate, I don't think the types of incidents are differential to other industries.
Yeah, it's a good comment. That's consistent, yeah.
And then you ask from time to time, I'm getting regular questions about PFAS.
We've got a position statement that says we're not intentionally putting it in. We have a little bit more research to do because we did not get 100% return on our survey before we can say that it doesn't exist. So right now, the position paper basically says we're not intentionally adding it to our products. So
The manufacturer still use glycol?
the potential issue is you have some fluoroelastomers that are used as a processing aid. That's where there needs to be an alternate solution and insurance that we don't have somebody out there using it. So, but there's some studies that we've learned about that were done in Europe by TEPFA on the fact that it does not leach into or out of potable water pipe. So we're trying to get our hands on that and see what we can do to Americanize it or North Americanize it and get that out. So probably our most active technical issue in our industry right now is PFAS. I don't go a day without hearing about it. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.